Hi, Sandra here from Creating Spain, and today I'm going to use Shortcuts a lot to demonstrate how to design a shadow box file. Now, when I say shadow box, I'm talking about a picture frame type shadow box, not the ones that you have for various card designs. Those are a different construction in general. Now, this is the picture frame type, where you have a three-dimensional frame made out of card. So, you can see on the screen I have a basic plan here, and the bits in black are solid pieces that get cut out. The green lines, these green lines here, this area here denotes the size that will be visible when the frame is cut. So that is your inside portion where you can put your photograph or your picture or whatever it is that you want to put in it. Okay. Now these lines are green for a very good reason, and I'm going to go to page 3 to show you exactly why. Okay, let's cancel that. Do not cut or score the green sizing lines. They show the visible picture size, and that is all they do. You don't cut them and you do not score them. Very, very, very important that. Okay. Now here I've got the same thing, and these areas are not blacked out. I blacked them out on the first one so they stood up in the video and you could see them a lot more clearly. Now the other thing that I'm not going to do is go through the process of making all the lines and things. In Shortcuts a lot, if you go to Object and you go to Duplicate, there's a box that pops up. Once you've got a straight line, you can duplicate it at any distance apart that you want. And in my case, I start off with ones that are 1 centimetre apart. It's a simple square frame with a square border. And that is the starting point. As far as I'm concerned, I can adjust it from there to what I want it to be. But that is my starting point, okay? So for a test page, you can see something a little bit more complicated. This test page simply sets up the rules for designing. And these are the corners that you would normally be putting in. However, this works if it's a square frame. You can't just copy and paste these into any size frame that you want. If you're doing a square frame, then it's relatively simple. If you just want the 1 centimetre border like I've got here, you can just pull that out. As long as you have keep proportions checked, you can pull that out and it will be fine. But if you want to adjust any of these dimensions or the dimension of this, then no, you can't, and you will need to recalculate your line positions. So I've got the rules for this. The black line is the outer cut line, and I've only got half the frame here because it's pointless in putting the whole lot in. It's just going to be copied and pasted and rotated to make the other part of it, if you see what I mean. But there are rules that you need to follow. Okay, now I have labelled these areas, and it's the area in between the two lines, the area that the wording is actually in, that refers to the part of the frame. So this first area here is the tuck under. This will not be visible when you've made your frame. The inner is the inner depth of the frame, the bit that sticks out from the back wall on the inside of your frame next to your picture. The top is the bit that faces you, that you see when you look at the frame head on the outside of it, not on the inner portion, on the outside. It's the bit that is face on to you. The depth is the side of the frame on the outer edge, the bit that you don't actually see, the bit that sticks out from the wall when you hang it on the wall. So those are the different dimensions. Now, if you want to alter those, and you can quite easily, the easiest way of doing it is to ungroup these lines and to simply select the ones that you want to alter and use your arrow keys to increase the dimension. So for example, if I select those and I move 1, 2, 3, 4, I've moved it. So the dimension here is 1 centimetre bigger than it was before. I'm just going to move that back. Likewise, if I just select this here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, I will have made that dimension bigger. Okay, so that is how to alter it. Now, you know how to alter those dimensions. The next thing you need to do is know the rules of altering those dimensions, because if you alter the wrong bits, your frame is going to end up very wonky indeed. So this is being the result of some trial and error and some playing around that I did. Right. The tuck under and the top must be the same width. So the tuck under is this one, and this one here is the top, and they must match. Okay, you can't have this one 2 centimetres and that 1.5. It's not going to work. Okay, it won't match. The inner depth must be equal, the inner and the depth must be equal too. So this one here, the second row down, must be equal to the depth, which is that one. And lastly, the gap between the guidelines and the first score lines must equal the top width. This line here denotes where your picture would be, or could be, if you're putting a picture in it. Okay, so the gap between this and your first guideline here must equal the top width, i.e. the measurement of the width of the frame as you are looking at it, the width of the frame, because otherwise it's going to, when it's folded up, it will encroach onto this area and you won't have the area inside that you think you should have. Okay, so those are the rules for actually doing that. Now, when it comes to the corners, if you're doing anything other than a square one, you can't just resize these. It doesn't work that way. So you need to redraw them, but it isn't complicated. All you need to know is that the diagonal slant line in this must go across the top. So the top one, that's your tuck under, that's the inner, that's the top. So when it comes to doing your corner design, it needs to go across there. And then you just do the straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line down. That is a diagonal line that you just draw. And you use this tool here to draw your line, and then you can close the line and it'll become a closed shape. You can copy it and paste it for the other corners. You don't have to do it each time. Make sure to get it done accurately, because that will save you a lot of grief in the end. But that is basically all there is to it. Now I'm going to do a video after I finish making this. I'm going to do a video of me actually constructing one of these things so you can get some more tips on how to construct it. And I do have a very good tip on how to construct this. Okay, in this piece, what I've done is I've taken the original file, but I've separated out the pieces into just lengths. And these would be the sides, and this would be the top and the bottom. Now, the reason I've done this is because sometimes you would perhaps want to make a box that is just too large for you to cut either on your machine, or the fact you just don't have card which is big enough. And this allows you to cut the outer frame and add a separate backing. So this is basically like a tube frame, very much like you would pick up at the hardware store, that you can slot and glue together to make the actual frame. One word of caution: before you put a backing on it, just make sure that you have got it nice and square. There is still a little bit of wriggle room, if you like, on the corners, simply because it will be out of card, and as such you can manipulate it a little bit. So make sure that you have it nice and square before you put your backing on. But other than that, it's a very easy way of putting the frame together, because all you have to do is slot the components and just glue. And it's a little easier than the all-in-one piece. But so the main purpose of this is when you can't make it big enough on your cutting machine or on the card or whatever that you've got in the first place. So no separate tutorial on how to put it together. It is pretty much self-evident when you've cut the pieces out. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye bye.